The Rainbow Magic series, for those who are uninitiated, is a British children's fiction brand which was created in 2003 under Orchid Books, which is a subsidiary or an imprint of Hachette Children's Group, and the first book was also released that same year in 2003. Since then, there have been over 200 books. To try and find the number, I went into the Wiki, and from what I saw, I went and counted every single one, including the US specials and the holiday specials and the one-offs. The number is a bit closer to 300, sitting at 281, 9 of which have yet to be released yet. So yeah, this video is going to be an exploration into the Rainbow Magic series, into the phenomenon that it is. Is it too much to call it a phenomenon? I think it's a phenomenon, but yeah, it's into an exploration into that series as a whole. If you like niche / nostalgic explorations into your childhood books, this channel is for you. Make sure to subscribe, and let's get right into this. The Rainbow Magic series followed the lives of two girl best friends, Rachel Walker and Kirsty Tate, two tweens who first meet on a ferry going to Rainspell Islands for family vacation. The girls meet and they immediately hit it off. They find out that their holiday cottages are located right next to each other. So one day they go off exploring and they find an old black cauldron at the end of the rainbow. They flip it over and then they find a fairy. This is the first fairy of the series that we are introduced to, and is the titular Ruby the Red Fairy. We find out that her and her sisters, collectively the Rainbow Fairies, they are responsible for putting all the different colors into fairyland, and that they're in trouble. Turns out they did an oopsie. They forgot to invite Jack Frost to the midsummer ball, and causing him to curse all of them and banish them from fairyland, leaving fairyland devoid of color. Ruby takes the girls into fairyland, where they meet Queen Titania and King Oberon, and they are tasked with the job of finding the other fairies who are scattered all over Rainspell Island. So that's basically the gist of the first book, which, I mean, first off, how do you forget to invite the looming presence that is Jack Frost? How does that happen? If one did it would have been okay, but all seven of you forgot to invite Jack Frost. At that point, that was intentional. This is a conspiracy. It is shady. And yeah, but also that was first off. Second off, am I the only one who sees the Sleeping Beauty parallels?
I really felt quite distressed at not receiving an invitation. She shall prick her finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel and die.
I can't be the only one who saw that, but at least there in Sleeping Beauty, they were bold enough. They said, no, we did not want to invite you, Maleficent. We just didn't want to invite you. As opposed to here, they just forgot. All seven of them just forgot. But yeah, the rest of the books in that set follow the girls trying to find the other 6 rainbow fairies over the course of the week. By the last book, Heather the Violet Fairy, they've managed to do that. They've managed to find all the other fairies. They defeated Jack Frost. They return color to fairyland, all before 4 o'clock. The stories follow that formula. Basically, the fairies would be minding their business. Jack Frost would do some hijinks. Maybe he'll steal some kind of magical object, and Rachel and Kirsty, being friends with the fairies, they help them out by finding whatever magical object has been taken away, stolen, lost, blah blah blah, and they help defeat him. Which, imagine getting foiled time and time again by a couple of fairies and 2 tween girls. By that time, I'd retire immediately. I would do that. But yeah, if you haven't caught up by now, the books come in mini sets of 7. The story follows the girls helping 7 fairies as part of a collective. So I just talked about the rainbow fairies. We got Ruby for red, Amber for orange, Saffron for yellow, Fern green, Sky blue, Izzy for indigo, and then Heather for violets. Together, the rainbow fairies. And the formula loosely follows that. The type of fairies you get in a collective always links back to the name of the series itself. So while you would not get Ruby the Red Fairy in the Petal Fairy collection, you would get Poppy, Lily, Orchid, Daisy, and Rose inside that specific collection. It's worth noting that the whole 7 in a set streak was kind of broken around like book 148. They sort of went for 4 in a collection rather than the popular 7. I couldn't find any particular reason for that. If I had to guess, I would say it's only because there's only so many times you can create a new fairy, create a new collection before you start to see some overlap. So I think that's what happened, but I couldn't find a set reason for that. So now that we've kind of run through about what Rainbow Magic series is all about, let's try and address what makes it good. And I've come up with a couple of theories, so let's go through them. The first one I would say is that the main characters are so stock. It's kind of easy to project onto. Like, yeah, there are some discernible traits we get along the lines of the books. In the first book, we see Kirsty being really open to the idea of magic and wonder, and you get Rachel on the other side of coin, who's not necessarily unopposed but more like skeptical and doubtful. But on the whole, they're kind of stock characters. The readers are kids with wild ass imagination, so I can imagine that just the idea of wild fairy magical adventures is enough of a selling point, enough as it is. The second point I have is that it's targeted to girls. One article that I read said that the titles boil down to feminine name, the feminine noun fairy, and that's not necessarily much of a reach. It really isn't. The series is called Rainbow Fairy Magic. The names on the fairies on the cover, they're feminine. The colors and the graphics are kind of as well. The main characters are girls. It has a penchant for leading into fashion, girlhood, etc. The character's name is literally Daisy Meadows. Now, I'm not saying everyone can't enjoy and love those kinds of things. In fact, there are furries for themes linked to things such as like nature, holiday, sports, school, etc. So you could argue that it's not so much about young girls but more so about the typical British kid. So you could say that, but it is somewhat marketed to young girls. I think they knew what their audience was going to be, and just because of the stereotypical like femininity of it all. And I think that was a good move on their part. Like, I'm pretty sure girls read more than boys, so targeting that demographic was very effective as a whole, and they knew what they were doing and they knew their target audience when they were making these books. The third point I have to say is that it's child friendly, so there's no profanity, no violence, it's all feel good vibes. The villains are more comical and goofy rather than, let's say, scary and sinister. Even when the fairies defeated and captured Jack Frost in the first book, the one that I just explained, Ruby the Red Fairy, they let him go because they realized the importance of Jack Frost in their ecosystem and just winter as a whole in the ecosystem. So they let him go after that. And yeah, you get lessons of friendship, helping others, being kind, seeing magic everywhere. So parents are happy, kids are happy. The next point I have is collectibility. The fact that the stories come in sets of 7 means that to finish that particular story, you have to get and read all 7 of them. And little by little, you get a whole ass collection by the end of it. And it's always, interestingly enough, it's always egged on by like, there'll be like a little checklist, not a checklist, but like a list of books at the end of the story that's telling you what the next set is. So it's always egged on by that. You know what I'm saying? Like, guts to see it through. Like, okay, what's next? On to the next one. By the time you finish one, you're like, okay, after Petal Fairies, it's this fairy. Let me go get that one. But yeah, on my own, like looking back and seeing when I was trying to research for this, I was like, okay, which ones did I have? And I remember I had the Rainbow Fairies, I had Petal Fairies, I had the Sporty Fairies, I had Dance Fairies, I had Weather Fairies, I had the Jewel Fairies, I had the Pet Keeper Fairies, and I had the Fun Day Fairies. So, and I also had a lot of specials. I had a lot of those specials. So if I had to gander, I'd probably had, say, between, I want to say like 60 to 80 of those books, which sounds like a lot, and it is a lot, but honestly, again, they're smart really the way you did it. They made the individual books so like small and thin. Again, they're children's books, so you're not getting like absolute behemoth amount of pages. I think they were like 40 pages. They weren't that big, they were like this tall, really thin. And yeah, and honestly, if I had, let's say, 70 books, divide that by 7, and honestly you have like 10 books split into 7 parts. So that's a little bit more, manageable, honestly. So number 5 is the art. The art on the actual covers of the books and in between the papers. I feel like they are such a crucial part of what makes the Rainbow Magic series the Rainbow Magic series. I did a little research, and the illustrator Georgie Ripper, she did the damn thing. Like, her resume is so impressive, to say the least. Apparently she stopped working for them for the series in 2008, and her art was just like imitated by succeeding illustrators. Like, literally, when I say blueprints, because they just imitated her work from then on. And I'm not gonna lie, it did kind of look like chicken scratch at first. Like, going back, I read the first series just to like get my head around and remember what's going on for research for this, and I read some later on books as well just to see what has progressed and everything. Like, it did kind of look like chicken scratch. It did in the first series, but it improved. It got a little bit more cleaner, more defined, I would say. But the core basis of what made it good, it stuck all through. So like clean lines, simple drawings and shapes, negative space, black and white, like shading and colors. And something about that is just so smart and intentional in hindsight when you think about the fact that it's for kids. Like, I can definitely see little children having those books and coloring it in. Not me though. I was always like a little purist at heart. I didn't want to get my books messy and everything like that. But like, I can definitely see that happening, like coloring it in like a little like coloring book. And I think that you can just have like an extra layer of like interactivity and imagination from these kids, because the creators did not make the pages colored in, so you can let your creativity really run wild when you were a kid and when you were coloring those pictures, because there's no set guidelines of how you could color in these pages. And I mean, I definitely remember redrawing the fairies on A4 paper when I was a child because they were so pretty, and I don't know why I did it, to be honest, but like they were simple enough to redraw, simple enough elements to redraw, simple enough shapes. Like, I vividly remember drawing Saskia the salsa fairy. I really remember doing that. I remember A4 paper in front of me, the book by the side, like drawing and looking. And I remember that because her skirts was just so fun that I was like, I have to draw this. Her skirts was just so pretty that I had to redraw it. Speaking of fun skirts, really quickly, the fashion. Let's talk about the fashion. So cute. Like, I wanted to dress like a lot of them. I wanted every single piece of article of clothing that they had. I wanted what they had. Like, look at this top. I think Summer, the swimming fairy, did this top not terrorize the entirety of 2020? Did this top not run 2020? Like, tell me you didn't see this top all over AliExpress and Shein. Like, tell me you didn't. Anyways, not every single fashion was a hit, but most of them were, and they were cute. I wanted to dress like they dressed. So the next theory that I have is, because of the literal sheer amount of books, it is a possibility that you may just find a fairy that has the same name as you and just, run with it and align yourself with that fairy. Not my Nigerian ass, like, there's no way you're gonna find, I never had hopes of that, never had hopes that I'd find a fairy with my name on it. But, some people did, if you got a really unique name or just an ethnic name, chances are slim to none. But, the girlies who did find, fairies with the same name as them, I'm sure that was a really cute ass moment. I'm sure that was fun. I'm sure that was filled with glee. I'm sure that was cute. But there's actually a little generator. I found it on their website where you can put in your name and search, and then it will come up with like the fairy that aligns with that name, that has that same name as you. So I'll put it in my description because it's really cute. I tried it and I did put my name. It didn't show up, but it was a cute little moment, so I'll put it inside my description box, please. Yeah, the last theory that I have as to why the Rainbow Magic series was such a success was the fact that it was such an easy formula, and that honestly makes it like a recipe for success. George Ripper, the illustrator, having a somewhat simplistic like art style, making it easy to imitate her art even without her involvement. Successful. And even the formula of the stories in and of itself, they are so formulaic that anyone could write their own collection. I could write my own collection. I could do it right now. You could probably do it too. So yeah, any person or persons could. And they did. So who is Daisy Meadows? Daisy Meadows, like I said in the beginning, is the author of the Rainbow Magic series, which we've all come to know and we've all come to love. Except that's not strictly true. Yeah, there's no Daisy Meadows. Never existed. Never existed. The Daisy Meadows that we saw on the covers on the books next to that cute little rainbow graphic image, it was all a lie. It never existed. The name Daisy Meadows in actuality is a collective pseudonym for a number of writers who essentially ghost wrote the series. Looking them up, I could find 4 consistent names. So it was Narendra Dami, Sue Bentley, Linda Chapman, and Sue Mongredien. While never hearing of them before, these 4 women seem to be prolific enough and like as well established and accomplished in their own rights. Most notably is Narendra Dami, who wrote the Beautiful Game series. She also wrote Bindi Babes, and she was responsible for the novelization of Bend It Like Beckham. Yes, that Bend It Like Beckham. So good for them, I guess. Really good for them. The series is honestly so successful. That is really parts in due to them and their writing. Apparently it's the #1 best-selling series for children aged 5 and up. I kept seeing that quote, but I couldn't find anything to back it up. Like, I couldn't find a list which I wanted to see, because surely it would be something like, I feel like Harry Potter or something. But yeah, that's what it said. That's what I found. And apparently 40 million copies of this series have been sold, which is amazing. That is incredible. They basically brought up an entire generation, and we love that for them. But I think we can discuss the ethics of major multi-million-dollar companies or publishing houses intentionally marketing to kids the way that they did. There's something rather cold, sinister, and calculating at most, and a little bit unnerving at the least, about picking that specific name, because they could have picked Alice Cooper, they could have picked Mary Sheffield, they could have picked Alice Green, they could have picked any regular name, but no, they picked Daisy Meadows, and they did that on purpose because it tied into that whole cute floral appeal. It fits right into that fairy theme, that whole nature floral thing. They knew what they did when they did that. And of course, in hindsight, the name is a little bit too on the nose. Okay, I see it. It's a bit strange but not surprising that about 15 odd years later I'd find out that everything down to the author's name was a marketing ploy. It's ironic that the pages themselves, they were filled with magic and fairies and whimsies, but the forces behind all of it was anything but. So where does that leave us? They do have a website up. You can go there, you can go look, you can find out, like I said earlier, what fairy has the same name as you. You could play a crossword. I did that. That was actually kind of fun. You could see the amount of books out. You could also see where on the hierarchy, what kind of fairy you are on the fairy tier. And I did do that. And I found out as a fairy expert or a fairy in training, which was very heartbreaking to say the least. I wasn't even like a fairy princess. That kind of hurt. With the amount of books I had, that kind of hurt. I didn't even reach like halfway. Like, I was halfway, I guess. That was kind of hurtful. But I kept it pushing. So I haven't really seen much discourse about it. I saw in certain places that parents kind of hated how badly written it was, and I thought that was kind of a stretch. I don't think they were that bad. I think they served their purpose for what kids are meant to read. I don't think adults are meant to consume that kind of content seriously, because I would hope that your reading level and your reading comprehension is much higher than that of a 5-year-old. So yeah, I don't think it was that bad, and I think those writers are really talented writers, like, on their own. So I don't think it was terrible. Yes, it was really repetitive though, and we'll get into that. There is something to be said about the repetitive formula. So like I said, yes, it makes it very easy to reproduce, but I think it also makes it easy to really grow out of as well. Because you're not really overly attached to any single character in particular, because the fairy of the topic changes in every single book, changes in every single collection. And Rachel and Kirsty, like I said, they're just so stock that there's nothing really to clutch onto, as a reader. And like I said earlier, there's only so many different type of fairies that you can make before some overlap and some inconsistencies just start to happen. Also, just, you know, never ends as well. There are still books slated to come out next year in 2022, and I imagine they're still treading the same water, regurgitating the same plots that are sure to make them money, as they always did. So final thoughts, I would say Rainbow Magic is like YA for tot. It is YA fantasy for tot. Rachel and Kirsty being like the normal human beings who are suddenly thrust into the world of magic and like fae and stuff, fae and goblins. You can make Jack Frost, like imagine the silver-haired, you know, dark villain with piercing blue orbs, because that's important, piercing blue orbs, and we've got a quintessential YA fantasy book on our hands. Like, ring that up. It's baby's first fantasy. There's this one quote in the book, I think in the first one that I read, it was, Kirsty seemed to see magic everywhere. And I think a child's first, you know, introduction into books can really shape them, and I do think that was one of the first introductions I got into immersing myself into fiction, like just obsessively reading. I think that's what really sparked it. I can't say for sure, but I think it was definitely one of the first things that really just sparked my obsession with books. When I found out that Daisy Meadows wasn't real, and I found out like a week ago, like a few days ago, it wasn't like, I was actually shook, guys. I was actually shook. I can't even lie. And that would have been a bit too much for my little 5-year-old head and soul to even just try and like wrap my head around. But, you know, as a 19-year-old who knows a bit too much about capitalism, advertising, multi-million-dollar corporations, it's not that surprising. It's not that surprising. Regardless, I look back at the Rainbow Magic series with fond memories. And honestly, yeah, it does kind of suck to grow up, huh? Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. This video was like, it was such a blast to like create and to like research and to reread. It was so much fun. So let me know your thoughts. Do you think the whole Daisy Meadow things, do you think was a bit too cynical? Was it deceptive, or was it just normal? Was it like, do you have any bad vibes without it, or you're just like, nah, like, yeah, no, it's fine? Tell me which books you had, which collections you had, which fairy you aligned to. Tell me if you had your name. Tell me if one of the fairies had the same name that you did. Tell me how many books you had, like I said. And yeah, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. So yeah, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe for more videos like this. I really hope you enjoyed this one, because I enjoyed making it. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.